Are we unmuted? All right, we are unmuted here, so I will call to order the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors organizational meeting for Monday, January 5th, 2026 to order. Please rise as you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And at this time, we will recognize the Assistant Township Manager for Public Works to call the meeting procedures and to give the roll.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members of the board, staff, and the public for joining us this evening for the January 5th, 2026 Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors organizational meeting. Following the adjournment of the organizational meeting, the board will conduct its first regular meeting of the year. These meetings have been properly advertised in accordance with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act as a hybrid meeting with the option to attend virtually and in person here in the main meeting room. If you are in attendance virtually using the WebEx platform and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please say your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on when the chair calls on you. If you are attending in person with us in the main meeting room and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please address the board at the podium and state your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on. Members of the public attending using the WebEx platform are asked to remain muted during the meeting to prevent any ambient noise from disrupting the meeting. If a member of the public is acknowledged by the chair, they may unmute their microphone for their question or comment. Secondly, board members are asked to indicate their name when motioning or seconding a motion so that the minutes may accurately reflect the action taken. Finally, a roll call of the Board of Supervisors will now be taken to ensure that all members can hear and interact using the WebEx platform. Please indicate that you are here when your name is called. Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Patterson.
Here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Heller.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Next up will be seating of the board. During the 5 o'clock hour, we swore in Supervisor Trevor White off to my right, your left, and on the other side of me, Supervisor Omari Patterson returns. So want to welcome Trevor to the board and welcome back Mr. Patterson. So glad to for you to join us in this new session of the Board of Supervisors. Our next item of business will be the election of officers. First, we will start by an appointment of a temporary chair to call and preside over the election. The Board of Supervisors will need to designate the Township Manager to act as temporary chair in order to conduct the nominations and the election of the chair of the board for 2026. A motion will be required to nominate the Township Manager as temporary chair. Once appointed temporary chair, the manager will seek nominations for chair of the Board of Supervisors. Once the chair has been elected, he or she will be responsible for conducting the remainder of the nominations and elections of the vice chair and the secretary treasurer for the township. At this time, I will entertain a motion to take that action.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Centrise Martin, Township Manager, as temporary chair of the Board of Supervisors to conduct the vote for board chair.
And do we have a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Right. And I will recognize the Township Manager.
Thank you. And at this time, I will entertain a motion for the appointment of the chair of the Board of Supervisors.
This is Patty. I'd like to nominate Jeremy Thompson for chair.
Is there a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
If there,
This is Omari. I nominate myself for board chair.
so we've got two motions on the floor.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Thought it was supposed to go nominations, but yeah, we could also.
we've got two motions for two nominations on the floor.
Okay.
Okay. So just treat them like nominations.
Right, so we've got two motions for two different nominations on the floor, ultimately a final vote will be needed to appoint the official chair of the Board of Supervisors. So we have, do we have a second for the motion to nominate Supervisor Patterson?
I'll second that also.
And now we have a second.
Okay.
I thought we discussed.
And then we can discuss, yeah.
This is the longest I think a manager's been chair.
Setting records.
I think so. Yes, so now the board certainly can entertain discussion at this time.
I gotta remember, I'm
All
not
right.
chair right now.
All board.
Yeah, no, I'm just, Jeremy, job well done,
Thank you.
continue on, yeah.
And from my perspective, I know there's kind of been a lineage where the vice chair comes up into chair the next year, et cetera. So that's been historically kind of how these things have worked. And I would also be a fan of, maybe keeping with that methodology and potentially, if, I guess you're not chair right now.
I'm not chair right now.
Supervisor Thompson move into the vice chair, but so to keep continuity in the executive leadership team of the board, but to also kind of pay homage to the history of moving one into the next.
Yeah.
A point of clarification, I'll just acknowledge that we've had both take place. So we've had a chair take on the role 2 years consecutively in the past and during my tenure.
And
so,
why was that? Do you recall?
we've had it twice actually. So we had a chair who was chair, you might recall, Chair Deneni served 2 years, and I believe Chair Strickland served 2 years.
And I think,
The
Steve,
why
was
Mel-
she there?
Mel-
Oh,
Yeah.
and and
I think
our
because
former
they wanted to
supervisor,
carry
Steve
on.
Miller, carried that role
I
several
think
years.
It was just,
Right, and so I will just acknowledge that we've seen it happen both ways
Okay.
as a point of clarification.
No, I appreciate that.
There's nothing necessarily written,
That-
whereas like at the COG, when we elect COG chair, it's set that, it should be a rotating municipality each year.
Right.
Yeah, there's nothing written, but there's certainly behind the scenes discussions about the way things are. And so I personally was told this is the way things are.
Okay.
And so and there's some whys, right? Like when Chair Strickland was chair 2 years in a row, it's because the vice chair at the time was like, I don't want to be chair. And so Chair Strickland remained Chair Strickland.
Right.
But there was some folks who were willing to have a small precedence, and I'm willing to keep that. If there's a precedence for chair and vice chair, take a seat, I think that's fine. I think it's good rotation. It's good practice for everybody on the board to kind of who wants it to get a turn in the seat. So that's from my perspective, there's some times when folks don't want it, and that's fine. But I think we should keep the continuity and movement in the flow.
I'd be for that.
Any other?
So are we ready to take a vote? We'll start with the vote,
Well,
still discussion.
I've been thinking through this and understanding right now with us soon to have a interim manager, but also needing to appoint a new manager. The township's going to be seeing a dual transition period this year, and I think in moments like this, the chair's role is not about visibility or personal initiative, but it's about steadiness, predictability, creating the conditions for the board to work cohesively. The interim manager will be providing the operational continuity. The chair will provide the governance continuity. I think these two forms of stability work best when they're aligned and consistent. So my reasoning, and these are just remarks that I had prepared, I believe maintaining the continuity of the chair role through the completion of the manager recruitment will best support the board's work and ensure a smooth and well-coordinated process. I'll just say I'm ready to continue providing the steady leadership that this moment calls for, and I believe continuity will support the board's work in the months ahead, so.
Well, I think you've done a fantastic job this year, Jeremy, and
Thank you.
If this weren't for me, kind of as I said before, kind of well, why can't we do what we've done as a board over the last X number of years where it's, if somebody doesn't want it, then like, back up. I think in this case, I am ready to step in as the chair. I think, the chair of the board has a couple of duties that are just a couple more than the board.
Yes.
And I think one of those things that's most critical is making sure that the entire board is working cohesively. And I think that, to your point about in times of kind of transition, that we need to make sure that everybody on the board is kind of contributing to that transition.
Right.
And so one thing that, as you may or may not know, and folks may not know, I delegate really well. I don't try to do everything. It is not on the chair to do everything. If you want to go fast, do it alone. If you want to go far, do it together. And so I think I'm a pretty decent combination of fast and far. There's some things that require a decision quickly. And where I excel is just in my corporate America experience is getting these kind of decisions boiled down to simple, here's the issue, here's the options, what do we want?
Right.
And that's something that, we've seen on this board, in every meeting, to say, hey, is this where we want to go, folks? And also, the board speaks, then that's what we do, right? So, yeah, I'm ready to do it. And so, you've done a great job, Jeremy, and
Thank you.
You're going to continue to do a great job.
And I have to say, you've done a great job too. Like, I didn't let anyone see it and I didn't say it, but there was plenty of moments in this past year I was sweating. But you and the rest of the board did a great job at stepping up in the moment and, us collectively getting through those moments and even navigating things that not every board gets to navigate sometimes in their tenure, and like working with all you and looking forward to working with you, Mr. White. So if there's no further remarks, I guess I let the chair know I'm ready for a vote.
Has the board concluded their discussion?
I have one question. So we mentioned the historical trends, like it's gone both ways, where chair to vice chair, we've had people stay. Why historically has it gone from vice chair to chair? I guess that would be my question, is like, there's a reason why the chair stayed on.
Right.
So why would the vice chair go to chair?
I think there is some account for what individual board members would like to do. Like, if you or Matt, wanted to be chair, we, can always entertain those discussions in future years. And I guess like in my case, well, Patty, you would respectfully ask not to be chair, but you did step into vice chair because at one point you were the second most senior member. Well, you're now the most senior member of this board, and I was like third most senior at one point. So understanding that Ms. Strickland would, be stepping off this past year, they wanted to at least position me for chair, at least to allow a good year for even Mr. Heller and, Mr. Patterson to, so at least, anyone that desires to be chair, or, understanding, where the makeup of the board is headed in future years, at least position somebody that can help see the board through transition, because, depending on, what happens in the next election cycle, you could have 2 or even 3 new board members, depending on, the outcome of the election. So it's always best to try to at least have someone positioned to maintain the institutional knowledge and to be able to, keep that cohesion while other board members, gain more tenure. I guess tenure's the proper word instead of senior. Yes, Mr. Allen.
Are you allowed to now still act as chair and?
I was just answering,
I'm kidding. It was a
I
joke,
wanted
it
to
was a
answer a
joke.
question,
So,
I don't know
I
if
just
I
wanna
was
ask-
allowed to answer a question, but.
I just want to ask the direct question of each of you. So Supervisor Thompson, if Supervisor Patterson is elected chair, because there's an order to this, would you be willing to step in as vice chair?
Of course.
Okay. Supervisor Patterson, if Supervisor Thompson is elected chair, would you be willing to step in as vice chair?
Yes.
Okay. So the two of you would be in these positions, chair and vice chair, which I am very comfortable with.
And let me caveat that with, if someone else wants to kind of prepare themselves for chair, then I would be happy to let them vice chair. Because I think, and that's why I was thinking a little bit, was like, wait a minute, if we want Mr. White to kind of start, getting himself ready, or yourself, I'm happy to, like,
I'm
okay.
good, thank you. Publicly, I'm good, thank you. I'm looking at the camera.
I think for me, it's like, again, behind the curtain, it was go be vice chair, then you can be chair.
And that's what.
And
I get it,
I think we should,
I get it.
unless there's some other mitigating circumstance, we should keep moving on with that precedence, quite frankly. I don't know that any other transition is.
I've seen the two of you work well together in conversation and then in everything publicly, exec session, and I'm glad that you're both willing to step into these positions. So I'm ready to take a vote whenever others are.
I didn't know I would be running for a seat right now.
I know, yeah.
I didn't bring my campaign literature.
All right,
Well,
before
no lobbying in the polling place. For campaigning and lobbying, whatever.
Prior to having the vote, I'll just look to the board members to see if there are any questions. I'm happy to answer any other final questions related to history or provide any clarification. Okay, all right, and with that, we'll go ahead and start with a vote on we'll start with the first motion on the floor. I'll start with Supervisor White.
Yes.
The first motion being Jeremy
Jeremy
Thompson to
Thompson.
serve as vice chair.
Okay, so, is this not a roll call vote? Or?
Nope.
Wait, I apologize, to serve as vice chair or I thought the
To
first one was.
the first motion on the floor is to serve as chair. So, this is a vote for the Board of Supervisors to accept the nominee, Jeremy Thompson, as the chair of the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors during the fiscal year of 2026. Supervisor White?
Yes.
Supervisor Heller?
No.
Supervisor Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Patterson?
No.
Supervisor Stevens?
yes.
Thank you. I now hand the chair position back to Jeremy Thompson.
Okay.
Let the record reflect that there was majority vote in favor of Supervisor Thompson to serve as chair.
We probably need a point of order here. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think we probably
I'm
should have
thinking-
taken that second motion
At the same time.
at the same time.
That's the thing, should you take it one by one, or do what Congress does, you just say who you
So-
wanted?
Okay, we can retract that and do it again by a point of order.
Well, I'm not sure.
If the board is
probably
fine
should-
with it,
Okay.
we can proceed, but we can go back and do a procedural correction if we would like to do that.
Here's the problem. If you did the same motion for Omari, there would be 3 yeses. I think, maybe,
Well,
or
let's
not,
do it
or maybe
again.
not.
We'll just, if the board would be comfortable with doing the second, we'll do that. Is the board comfortable with proceeding in that
So
manner?
whatever motion of the most votes, okay. That sounds reasonable,
I
I
think
guess.
to your concern, we'll just start with that. Would the board like to conduct a vote on the second nominee that was placed as a motion and seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
We would like to proceed. I'm seeing a head nod. Yes,
Yes.
Supervisor Heller.
Yes.
Yes, Supervisor White. Yes, Supervisor Thompson. Yes, Supervisor Patterson.
Yes.
Oh, just Supervisor, okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and vote on the second motion placed on the floor for nominee Supervisor Patterson to serve as the chair for Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors in fiscal year of 2026. Supervisor White.
No.
Supervisor Heller.
Yes.
Supervisor Thompson.
No.
Supervisor Patterson.
Yes.
Supervisor Stevens.
No.
Thank you. Let the record reflect, Supervisor Thompson will now serve as the chair for the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors in fiscal year 2026.
Thank you. Two ballots. That might actually be the most ballots we've gone through in a couple years.
So now the chair comes back. And then the
Yep,
vice chair.
I am
Back
back. I
to-
just, thank everyone for instilling their trust in me and look forward to, what this year has to offer. Sounds like it will be a busy one, but, we got a good team here, so. Let's see, I guess this is all tied into the same agenda item. So at this time, I will accept nominations for the vice chair.
I would like to,
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Supervisor Patterson.
I'll second that.
Second that? All right, any discussion or any other nominations? Don't want to throw us both in there. Okay,
Kind of funny.
if there are no further nominations, I will recognize the township manager to call the roll for the nomination of Omari Patterson as vice chair.
Thank you. This is a vote for the nomination of Supervisor Patterson to serve as the vice chair for Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors. Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Heller,
Yes.
Supervisor Thompson,
Yes.
Supervisor Patterson,
No.
Supervisor Stevens.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Majority vote in favor of Supervisor Patterson to serve as the vice chair of Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors in fiscal year 2026.
Mr. Patterson, since you did not vote for yourself, you do accept this nomination and will be our vice chair, right?
It doesn't matter, the board has spoken.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
The board has spoken.
Next will be the election of the secretary treasurer. I believe that has been the township manager. I will defer to the township manager, maybe explain how, since you will be leaving tomorrow, how this will work.
Great question. The Board of Supervisors voted in for Tom King to serve as your interim township manager. So
Okay.
all things related in reference to the municipal code and the charter now will effectively beginning 12 a.m. on January 7th will now be designated by Tom King as the interim township manager. So that to be shared. Tom King, your
Okay.
incoming interim township manager, will serve as the secretary. And generally, under my leadership, I have designated that to township staff, and currently that is with Jenna.
Okay. So I was gonna say, we're good
Nothing
to.
changes.
Okay. So good to make this nomination or just confirm,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, is there an official vote here?
how to tee up the vote.
I don't think there's an official vote. No, the
Oh, okay.
township manager will just assume that
Just a
as we
part of
usually
the
do, right?
job
So
duties
I
of
guess
who-
what we'll,
okay.
since it's been a point of discussion, I'll just look to our incoming interim township manager and ask if he has any concerns with that as the interim township manager, or if he would like to proceed in a different fashion.
I just want to know that the 5 supervisors are supportive of that, even with just a head nod,
Yes.
that is
Yes.
how you want to continue.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, then yes, the answer is everything will continue as status quo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, that's complete. So appointments, we'll move on to appointments to the authorities, boards, and commissions. And I'll recognize the township manager for this one.
Thank you, Chair. Ferguson Township annually advertises in the fall for the volunteer application, advertises with volunteer applications to fill expiring terms of the township's authorities, boards, and commissions. The Board of Supervisors held special meetings there at the end of 2025 and conducted interviews with the interested applicants, both new and renewed. And following the interview process, the Board of Supervisors deliberated on the appointments, the appropriate candidates to serve on the ABCs. This evening's action is to formally, as indicated on the agenda, with a recommended motion, to formally appoint the selected applicants to the authorities, boards, and commission as presented in the agenda packet.
All right. Yes, if there,
This is Matt. I move that the Board of Supervisors formally appoint the selected applicants to the authorities, boards, and commissions as presented in the agenda packet.
and do we have a second for that?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Ms. Stevens. Any discussion? Okay. If not, I will have, I'll have the township manager call the roll on that one.
Thank you. This is I don't believe this is a roll call vote.
I could run it as a voice vote.
It would just be a voice
I've seen this happen like several different ways over the years.
vote. Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Right. Motion passes. And next we'll have the appointment of the township tax officials, legal counsel, and consultants. And I will recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. And provided with the agenda is a narrative summarizing that the agenda packet is currently listing the township's appointed tax officials, legal counsel, consultants, enforcement officers, and appraiser. And the term expiration date for the positions listed is December 31st, 2026. So there's a correction there that we can make to the agenda packet.
Yes.
These positions are, my apologies, that was an oversight mistake on my part. These positions are annual appointments that are approved by the Board of Supervisors, and there is a recommended motion for the board's consideration.
And do we have a motion?
This is Patty. I move that the Board of Supervisors appoint the individuals or agencies as recommended above by the Township Manager for the year 2026.
And do we have a second?
This is Trevor, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. White. Any discussion on this? Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right. Next will be our appointments to the Center Region Council of Governments and Regional Committees, and I'll recognize the Township Manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is a summary and a summary within the narrative section, as well as a recommended vote, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? Let me pull up, I was gonna say this isn't yet complete.
You mean in terms of responses to the questionnaire?
Hold on. No, appointments to regional ABCs. Yeah. Yeah, I did see that one, so, yeah, and I do thank Jenna for updating that. So there was still a vacancy for the alternate to finance, as well as a vacancy for representative and alternate to the Center Area Cable Consortium. Let me also pull up what Jenna had here. Oh, that's the wrong meeting. I was gonna say, everyone good with the appointments? I know I'd heard from Mr. White, you had interest in Spring Creek Watershed Commission. I don't know if I had we had talked, but I thought you may have interest in the Land Use and Community Infrastructure Committee. That was one that came vacant from Supervisor Strickland's departure there. Mr. Heller, I thank you. You said you would remain on Climate Action and Sustainability.
Yes, sir.
So. Anyone had any questions or wish to modify any appointments? If, Mr.
I just want to say thank you, because I know sometimes we have our primary as well as our alternate folks identified there, but sometimes we have to go even deeper on the bench.
Right.
And I appreciate everybody's willingness as supervisors to step in when that happens and support one another, because life happens sometimes. And from personal experience, I just want to say sincerely thank you. So let's carry that forward if we can.
Yeah, I thank you, and even included in your agenda packet, the primary and alternates, you know, they covered the meetings, but if even those two individuals is out, any elected official from the municipality can step in if they're in attendance. So I do think the board, I know they have in the past, if that alternate was not available, they've reached out. I think Patty has even reached out to me a couple times. And if you noted, I did kind of nominate myself to take on the alternate for your committee, since you had reached out to me. I'm like, I could do that. You know, Patty will let me know if she needs me. So, so any recommendation or anyone want to step up to help Matt with finance in his absence? You, if you nobody else, if you want to be alternate for finance committee.
I'm trying to count the names. I'm like, I feel like my name's a little light here. So if you need me to step in somewhere, I'm happy to.
I'd like to nominate Mr. White as primary, and I'll go to alternate. No, I'm kidding. I'll bring you up to speed.
And the nice thing about finance, I've even seen Mr. Grady in finance from time to time, as well as the manager. So, you know, you could always go back on the meeting recordings. So, yeah.
Thanks.
So we'll note that. I thought you might even, Mr. White, I thought you might also be interested in an alternate for the Center County MPO. As a matter of fact, the way they structured it, my understanding, they structured it this year, it's technically a 4-year term, but I only have like 2 years left unless I was to be reelected. But, you know, I think between both of you and I, we have a strong passion in transportation in the region. So, you know, no matter what the next 4 years holds, I think both you and I will be able to maintain that continuity and institutional knowledge representing Ferguson Township on that committee. Yep.
Looking forward to it.
And anyone want to step up for Center Area Cable Consortium? I don't think they meet all that frequently. They met when the franchise agreement was last updated, and then I think there might have been a meeting or two during when Chantel was looking to come into the area. So just basically an as needed.
I would like to go ahead and throw my name into the ring on that.
It's Mr. Heller for that one.
Yeah.
Anyone want to step in as alternate?
I will alternate.
Okay, Mr. Patterson is alternate. And if nobody else has any appointments that they wanted to point out or adjust, I'd entertain a motion to accept well, actually I did just see another vacancy. And I did note on this sheet, and I thank Jenna and staff, there was a couple staff appointments that got updated, so I appreciate that. There is an alternate opening for the Solar Power Purchase Working Group. Guess I'll defer to the manager. Would there be like another staff person you might want to identify there, or would you be open if a board member wanted to step in as an alternate?
It should be Todd Grady. We appointed him last year, and
Okay.
so my recommendation would be that the board continue with that appointment. He's
Right.
Just for the continuity, it's a pretty complex
Yeah.
item, so I would recommend that Todd Grady serve as that liaison for the township.
All right. I guess by default, if Todd couldn't make it, the manager's the
That is-
alternate, so, okay. All right.
So is that a typo in there right now? 2025, it doesn't have a primary, just as alternate, James Bogart.
We made the appointment, and so, yeah, I think the confusion is that the board had taken action to appoint Todd Grady maybe in Q3 last year.
Yeah.
So continuing this format, probably from 2025, it carried on James as the appointment, but there was action taken to designate formally by the board Todd Grady to
Right.
serve in that role. So yes, there was an oversight. My apologies.
Copy that. So Todd Grady, primary, James Bogart, alternate.
Yeah. Not a
Well,
request,
actually, I would say it would be your township manager
the manager, yeah.
as your alternate.
I think I see where James came, because at one point it was the former Public Works Director that was representing the township on that group there, so, yep.
That is correct.
All right. Well then, if no other, I think we've got everything set, so I'll entertain a motion to approve that slate of individuals.
This is Patty, so moved.
And do we have a second?
This is Trevor, I'll say.
Thank you, Mr. White. Got a motion by Mrs. Stevens, second by Mr. White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Right. Next up, we'll have the appointment of the voting delegate and alternate for the 2026 Pennsylvania Municipal League Leadership Summit, and I will recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is a narrative that just summarizes that we, at this point, I think for the last 2 years, we haven't always done this, but we started it last year just because sometimes we get so close to the actual conference and then look for that delegation to be added to as an agenda item on a meeting. So we do now as part of the organizational meeting. So we look for the board to have discussion and designate who's going to be the primary. We have seen traditionally, especially when we've been in a hurry to submit that paperwork to PML, we have designated the chair. And so by default, the chair generally ends up being the primary point person that's designated. However, we do open this up for discussion. It's also our at a staff level, our way of trying to get it on your calendars should you have interest in attending. So provided with the agenda is a recommended motion, and once the action is taken, staff will be positioned to go ahead and update PML for prompt communication.
All right. And this year, the convention will be in Hershey from October 7th through October 10th. Last year, Mr. Patterson and I were the delegates, so at this time, if there's any questions, I'd take those. Otherwise, I need to take just the nominations for a voting delegate and alternate voting delegate.
This is Patty, I move that the chair and vice chair as the voting delegate and alternate
Okay.
for the PML.
Do we have a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
Got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. Heller. Any discussion? Okay, if not, I was gonna say, I guess that means, Mr. Patterson and I will be going to Hershey this year, but, as we get closer to October, any other board members that want to go to Hershey, we can, discuss that. There is some dollars to send you, so, if all those in favor of, the delegates, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Right? Next up will be the appointments of the Police Pension Advisory Board, and I'll recognize the manager.
Thank you. Provided with the agenda is a narrative and a recommended motion for the board's consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions on this item? I have served in this role for the last 2 years, so I attend the quarterly meetings with the finance director, the manager, and other staff. We get a presentation from the investor and just kind of see how the funds are going, and just been pretty much informational, but sometimes there are things that, go forward to the board for a vote, so relatively straightforward. If there's no questions, I entertain a motion for nomination.
This is Patty, so moved. Jeremy is the.
Okay, I was like,
Sorry.
can you specify who's
Sorry.
going to the police pension
Sorry,
board?
for Jeremy Thompson to be the police pension fund.
Do we have a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
All right, got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. Heller. Was there any other nominations or discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Right. And last but not least, at least under this, we have the appointment of a designated depository, and I will recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is a summarized narrative for your consideration with the recommended motion for your consideration as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? And this is just, okay, this is just to appoint the bank and, okay. Can I have a motion? If I can't get a motion, any questions to help get to a motion?
This is Trevor. I move that the Board of Supervisors moves to appoint Northwest Bank as the primary depository, the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust for investments in any federal deposit insurance corporation insurance bank.
And do we have a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. White, second by Ms. Stevens. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, reports of presentations, none. Unfinished business. Got a discussion on the proposed 2026 Board of Supervisors regular and special meeting dates, including the review of the capital improvement plan, CIP, and annual operating budget. And I'll recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is a summarized narrative and a recommended motion for the board's consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions or some even conflicts sometimes where board members are good at pointing out any conflicts? Okay. I think we're good for the most part there, so.
If I may,
Yep.
just very quickly, the June dates for the CIP, I noted that the 22nd, it's still also appearing at 6 o'clock, but that, since it's a road tour, it's probably earlier.
Oh, yeah,
6
usually road
o'clock?
tours.
So it's 22 would be, I don't know, 3, 4, 2 o'clock, something like that. And then the 23rd and 25th would be the 6 o'clock meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know if that needs to be clarified further, just something that can get updated later.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can make note of that and make the update.
I was gonna say I can at least,
We can update our meeting
Yeah.
schedule and circulate it to the board in the next couple of days.
yeah, I can at least make note to, at least be prepared for earlier. I do apologize. I remember last year's road tour, I got sick and then I think somebody else got sick. And basically by the time the road tour came about, it was like, yeah, we don't want to all be in a van together going on all these roads.
That's right, I actually will be sick that day. Actually, I'm looking at Pittsburgh on the 23rd. That's something.
Okay. But if we're good with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve those proposed dates.
This is Matt, so moved.
And do we have a second?
This is Trevor. I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Mr. White. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, next up, public hearing on a resolution in Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, establishing the agenda order of business for 2026. Now I'll recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is a summarized narrative and a recommended motion for the board's consideration. This is, I'll note, a public hearing which will require a roll call vote. And I'm happy to answer any questions or comments the board may have.
This is a public hearing, so at this time, anyone in the room wanted to address the board on the proposed agenda order of business? If none in the room, I'll go online. If there is none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
This is Patty. I move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the resolution establishing the agenda order of business for 2026.
And do we have a second?
This Trevor, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. White. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Heller.
This is just a personal observation. I always feel bad for our citizens when we have lengthy reports and presentations before we get to the thing that they're here for, unfinished business or new business. And would we, or have we ever seen something where the reports and presentations come after the unfinished business or new business? Because some of those presentations can be rather lengthy. Some of them may not have anything to do with unfinished business or new business and are really standalone items. Now, granted, if it's a presentation that is something that would be coming further along in an unfinished business thing or a new business moment, that's different for that night. But again, I think about the folks that would join us in the rooms, having to sit through a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour sometimes, just to get to even an unfinished business item or a new business item. Just want to put that out there for discussion.
In what I saw, getting those COG committee reports and putting them to the end, I think that took care of at least 30 minutes of allowing folks in the room to kind of get to their business. The presentation gets dicey because if it's, DCED or another organization, they should be at the front. So the Center Safe comes in or whoever, they come into, and they do have some maybe future business. Like the economic development was presentation twice. And so those are all helpful to everybody in the room if they want to listen. But I do think that up front, because they are similar to unfinished and new business, they are some other thing that we're hearing about. So I hear you and I'm with you. I think with the reports going to the end for COG, we saved some time for folks in the room. And I think there's an opportunity, if there's a presentation that, I don't know, Matt Heller's giving, we can say, let's push that to the end, please.
Always to the end on that one. But great, thank you.
I applaud Mr. Patterson. I think I had even been advocating to get those COG reports to the end because they, at least in I think when I moved in 2013, 2015, they were at the end, and I feel like when they got pushed to the front, it kind of made the first half of the meeting rather longer. But also, as a committee person, I'm somewhat hesitant to really delve too much into committee report because then I feel like I'm holding up the meeting. But the thing is, what I've realized over time is with those COG committees, we should take time to discuss as a board some of the matters that happen in those committees so that when we do get the general forum, everyone's on the same page, or our representative to that committee knows where the board stands when there's a certain matter of business coming down the line. So, I guess it's just kind of been a balancing act, and I know last year we started doing this. There is a provision where we can move certain items around, and we have done that if there is a bunch of people in the room that say, hey, we want to talk about a particular item, to move that around. So if there is consensus from the board, we can always, provide that flexibility as well. So any other questions, concerns?
No.
Okay. Did we get a motion on the floor for adopting this? So, yes. If no further discussion, I will have the township manager call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. This is a roll call vote for 2026-01. Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson?
Yes.
Supervisor Stevens?
Yes.
Supervisor Heller?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. The roll call vote passes unanimously.
Right. Thank you. Next, we'll have a public hearing on a resolution, Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, adopting the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors procedures. And I will recognize the Township Manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is a summarized narrative and a recommended motion for your consideration, and I am happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Heller.
To confirm, these are the ones that were adopted back in 2020 and have been unchanged since. Is that correct?
Those
I
changes to
think
this
there
one.
was a revision in 22.
Okay, I apologize about that, but the one that was cited in here all had the same 2020 date, no?
Oh, the revised date should have been recently?
Uh,
Didn't this change?
I remember talking to the manager about it, but
So we have there, I think in the footer is what you might be referring to.
Yes.
The last time that it was adopted was or revised was in 2020.
okay, yep,
So there have not been revisions since 2020.
correct.
Correct.
Okay, again, just making sure that this is the same thing that we've had for 5
Yeah.
years plus. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, that was my only question.
I have a question. Do we have to do this? Is this
Yes, it's within the charter or the municipal code that the township have a board procedures manual.
Yep, Article
adopted.
2, Section 2.02.
There it is. Thank you, Chair.
it's in the packet?
It was required that you adopt a board procedures manual.
That is on our wonderful website under the Code of Ordinances tab if you want to read all that material.
And really, much of what's in the manual is summarized versions of what you'll find in the municipal code and the charter, with some exception that just provide a little bit more detail, maybe for standard operating procedures.
Yeah,
But it is within the board's purview responsibility to adopt the board procedures manual.
right. And I do recall you had talked to you one-on-one, but of course with the I've been somewhat having interest of possibly revising this, but with the transition, we've just had a lot on our plate, but you know, maybe something Tom and I can discuss in the new year and slowly, of course. we got to get a bunch of other things taken care of along the way, so. But, you know, hopefully over time we'll be able to have that collaboration. You just wanted to, Mr. Patterson just wanted to take a look at something or had anything more to
I
add?
guess I just didn't read the charter the same way that we have to have a board procedures.
It's in there.
Shall adopt rules. Okay, it's 2.16. Well,
Any other questions or?
But the adoption could be as simple as we will use Robert's Rules of Order, which is kind of what it says in section 1, but then there's a bunch of other stuff like, hey, here's how you get something on the agenda. So I will make a motion, but you may not like my motion. So I will defer to others to make a motion.
We'll look at anything that comes forward. If there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the board procedures less the final, the board member request to place items on the agenda. So delete it.
So the board procedures manual with the request for agenda items stricken. Okay. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second to ask questions.
Okay.
Yes.
That's perfectly fine. So discussion.
My mind immediately went to repeal and replace, but I'm not hearing replace.
Just removing the last section. But what, like the, how do we get things on the agenda? You give them to the chair. Like there's multiple ways. Robert Rules of Order, you set the municipal code, you set your agenda, Sunshine Act, you advertise what the things you're gonna have on the agenda. For things that there's no action, you can add them to the agenda day of, day before, 2 days before. So there's plenty of ways to get something on the agenda. I think that this was constructed in a way that was trying to be helpful, but I think it also has been used to keep things off the agenda. And I'm just not in favor of this and would like it stricken. That's why I'm bringing that up.
So if we could maybe go through some scenario discussion.
Sure.
My name's Matt Heller. You don't like curly mustaches. I remember that from a couple months ago.
Man,
All
you're
right.
up.
Yeah,
All your agenda's items are.
exactly. What's the thing that I can go back to that says, but I should be heard?
I think the example, though, is what I've been doing over the last 3-4 meetings, and that is in the beginning of the meeting saying, I move to amend the agenda to add this thing to new business. And we have all voted to add said thing to the agenda. And then we've talked about it, and then we've said, yep, let's talk about it again, or add it to the consent agenda, whatever we've done. I think it's not about, like, these aren't scenarios we haven't done now, because
No, and that's
this was a change that I've been wanting for a long time. We've made that, and I think this will kind of further, again, removing this language and, and I also think there's some way we can also morph it. It just didn't get morphed, so I'm saying remove it. Just say that.
I'm having trouble seeing the vision. Could you could you paint out like some specific?
How about this?
Yeah.
If you were to submit an agenda item tomorrow,
Yeah.
it may not get on the board's agenda for quite some time. Matt Heller has a thing that hasn't made it to the board's agenda for quite some time. I have things that did not make it to the agenda for quite some time. That's the example.
Okay.
So if you want something on like the next meeting or to put it on at today's meeting, what that writing is kind of preventing that. It essentially says the chair should put it on whenever they want. And I'm just saying we don't need that.
So what do we need? That's what I'm confused about. Like,
It's the same thing. It's submitted to the manager and chair to say, hey, I'd like to talk about this thing in depth with these actions that I'm requesting. If there's no action, then you can add something to talk about without the in depth.
but something with action.
With action, absolutely needs to be advertised.
Okay, yeah, and
Without action can be added to the agenda immediately with board approval. The intent of this a long time ago was that there was a little bit of unease around how do we get something agenda, how do we help our team, get the right things on the agenda at the right time? How do we keep the meeting from going 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours long? I get it, I understand. And that's where it's up to the board. It should always be up to the board to say, yes, we want to talk about that, or no, we don't. And anybody on the board should have the ability to bring something, add something with the full board's concurrence. That's it.
Thank you.
If I could just comment,
Yes, Mr. King.
since it's going to affect me in putting agendas together. Just suggest that instead of making a decision tonight to cut it out meaning remove it, cut it out. To figure out a way that we want to change it. What isn't working about it, and how do we want to change it? Change that language, and then bring that language back where we can have further discussion and have some conversation about the best way to change it instead of doing it on the fly. I recommend that you, knowing that this can be amended at any time, and knowing that we want to need to approve this, should be approved at our organizational meeting, go ahead and approve it with the understanding that Supervisor Patterson and others may want to have this conversation, and we figure out if this isn't working for us, what is the way in which it will work well for us going forward. But approve tonight, and then look at how it needs to be revised. It doesn't have to wait until next year during reorganization meeting to make revisions to it.
I do like that recommendation. I did actually draft a revision proposal that I think I may have discussed or shared with the manager, but, Mr. King, I would be glad to take another look at that, maybe share it with you. Well, share it with you and then share it with the board. So, this is something we can discuss in the near future that will work for everyone.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Chief, soon-to-be Manager King has shared. I think that if you adopt it this evening, you can do a repeal and replace to this resolution at a future time once you have a vetted approach forward that is determined by you, Chair, and vetted with your board mates and then discussed with your interim township manager.
There is a motion on the table. Anyone had any further discussion or even would like to make an amendment to the motion? If there's nothing further, I would then, oh geez,
Did we open the
I
public
forgot to
hearing?
open the public
Open the
hearing.
public hearing.
I want to thank everyone that's joining us right now. The hour, we have crossed the 7 o'clock hour. We are still conducting our organizational meeting. The regular meeting was to start at 7 p.m., but that will start immediately following the conclusion of this meeting. So do stand by if you were here for any matters of business on the regular meeting agenda. This item is a public hearing, and at this time I will open the floor for any public comments. Seeing any in the room? There's none in the room. Anyone online? Seeing none online, I will then close the public hearing. We do have a motion on the table. If there is no further board members that wanted to discuss, I will then defer to the township manager to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. This is a roll call vote for Resolution 2026-02. Chair Thompson?
No.
Vice Chair Patterson?
Yes.
Supervisor Stevens?
No.
Supervisor Heller?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
No.
Okay.
Motion fails.
Can I make a new motion?
Yes, you may. Yep.
I move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the resolution, where am I here? Adopting the resolution for the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors Procedure Manual for 2026.
And do we have a second?
This is Trevor, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. Strickland. Ms. Stevens, seconded by Mr. White. Any discussion on this motion? Yes, Mr. Heller.
Could we maybe amend the motion to say and bring back this discussion about the board member request to place an item on the agenda to our January 20th meeting?
Sure.
I'm just trying to make sure we come back to this.
Absolutely. I don't know that, I guess I'll accept the amendment for bringing it back for board discussion, but as opposed to
Yeah.
pinning a date on it, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But I agree, we can bring it back for discussion.
What I have, I think we probably could bring back for discussion on January 20th, but then again, don't want to overcommit the agenda if we have 50 million agenda items that are all coming due on January 20th, so I'm good with just kind of keeping it open, that we can see, where in the shorter term future we, it would be best put. I imagine that's what you were trying to get at.
That would be ideal when we know the board wants us to come back.
All right. Again, just trying to provide that good staff partnership that's not overtaxing.
And I'll just say, this is my first meeting, so the only reason I'm saying no to the original and yes to this is because I prefer to think out unintended consequences of what that would be. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and frankly, like I said, this is my first meeting, so there's a lot that I don't know. So I do want to take it a little slow and figure out where we're going. And so I appreciate your feedback, Mr. King. And thank you.
I like that, appreciate that. You got a little over 100 some, more meetings to go. Any further discussion on this? I do believe, was there a sufficient enough for an amendment to that? Or should I actually, if it's an amended motion, I should actually call a vote on an amendment.
This will be a roll call vote, so we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote once and it sounds like we have confirmed the recommended motion as it's stated in the agenda, with the acknowledgement that it will return, the discussion for the last item as presented in the board procedure manual will be back for a future discussion at an agenda meeting. So if we're all good with that summary, that verbal summary of the amended motion?
I'm good with that.
I'm happy to, yes?
Yes.
There's
Supervisor
nothing.
Patterson, amended motion?
It's
It's been
between the
stated.
nominee, the mover and the seconder.
Okay.
If they've done it, then we're good.
Okay, all right, we'll go ahead and,
Yeah, if there's no further discussion, I'll recognize the township manager to call the roll.
thank you, Chair. This is a roll call vote for Resolution 2026-02. Chair Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson,
Yes.
Supervisor Stevens,
Yes.
Supervisor Heller,
Yes.
Supervisor White.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Chair. The vote passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. So we got calendar items and then adjournment for the organizational meeting. Ms. Stevens, would you
Motion
like
to
to?
adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned from the organizational meeting and we will go into the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors regular meeting for Monday, January 5th to order. Thank you for joining us. We just concluded our organizational meeting and are now into the regular meeting agenda. Start with announcements and proclamations. The Board of Supervisors held executive sessions on December 9th, December 10th, as well as December 22nd regarding matters of personnel. Next up, we will start with public comments for any items that are not on the agenda. We will start in the room. Anyone in the room here? If not, anyone online had any public comments? Seeing none, close public comment and entertain a motion to approve the December 17th, 2025 Board of Supervisors special meeting minutes.
This is Patty, so moved.
And do we have a second? I will second the meeting minutes. We normally request any corrections or revisions to be submitted ahead of time, so basically, usually with this one, unless somebody says there's, something needs taken care of, I just go straight through a vote and we'll adopt this. So pending no corrections or further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Right. Next up will be our reports and presentations. Diversity, equity, and inclusionary activities and acknowledgements. Got a help me out here. Maha'ana New Year, a Buddhist holiday on January 3rd. World Braille Day was yesterday, January 4th. And then the International Day of Commemoration in Memory of the Victims of the Holocaust will be on January 27th. Next is department reports, and I will recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. Provided with the agenda is an administration report, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? If not, I thank staff for their report. Then we'll go to unfinished business. We have a consideration of funding support for affordable housing preservation in Sullivan View Estates, and I'll recognize the township manager.
Thank you, Chair. This evening, back for discussion for board consideration is a contribution to the Center County Housing and Land Trust with the project in mind being the Sylvan View Estates. And we have with us this evening a board member, Adam Broomball, also College Township manager with us, and we also have the executive director, Missy Schoonover. And recent developments that's worth sharing with the board this evening would be that the College Township Board of Supervisors did make a contribution in the amount of $50,000. So back on this evening, as also approved by the board via consent agenda, at the request of Supervisor Patterson. And just to acknowledge what's also been put into a memo is that at this time, certainly as your township manager having discussions with Missy as well as Adam, this is certainly something that the Board of Supervisors is well within their purview to make a determination if you would like to make a contribution. and understanding that the return on investment for the contribution for this particular project is certainly that, you know, in this scenario where the likely scenario where we're able to actually see and preserve these units as affordable housing in Ferguson Township, you know, this project, whatever contribution we make will be in the grand scheme of things, quite minimal compared to the investment required to maintain these units as affordable, I should say low-income housing. And, you know, that terminology distinction is quite important and impactful. So, you know, presented to the board as a unique opportunity to be able to maintain these affordable housing units. And recognizing Supervisor White is new, there is a summary that's provided in the agenda packet, but I'll also just acknowledge that these units have been low-income housing for the last, I believe, 30 years, and the time frame to which the owner needed, you know, to maintain them as low-income housing has expired, and he's looking to sell, and we have an opportunity through partnership with the Center County Housing and Land Trust to be able to contribute toward maintaining them as affordable units. If it were to be purchased by another entity that's not currently, you know, considering through a partnership with the Center County Housing Land Trust, we're not guaranteed that they will be maintained as low-income housing units. And so it's certainly my recommendation that the board consider a contribution, but also it's up for board consideration and deliberation. And Adam and Missy are both here this evening to answer any questions particularly related to the project.
Right. Want to open this up for board discussion? Not necessarily in a hurry to take a motion. Sounds like we kind of got some questions and some things to navigate through here, so.
I'm very curious to hear what you all have to say. I have my own thoughts, because I went back and, you know, watched that meeting. That was one meeting I was not in person for, but I went back and watched that. And like I said, I have my own thoughts. I'm very curious as to what, you know, the follow-on discussion that's going to happen here and where everybody else stands. But I also have questions for y'all as far as like effects on like HUD funding and like how CCHLT is dealing with all of that. So yeah, I'll defer to y'all real quick, and then I'll.
Well, if you want to start with your questions to them, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's my understanding that, and you used to be on the board for Center Safe, and it's my understanding that there's going to be some issues with the continuum of care and HUD funding to transitional housing for a variety of programs. And so I'm curious if this is something that is, if these are conversations that are being had in affordable and low-income housing circles, and if so, like, I'll start with that question. Is this conversations that are being had right now in these spaces, or is this just my own echo chamber?
No, you're absolutely right. These are conversations that are going on now, have been going on for the 30 years I've been in affordable housing, and probably 30 years after I am here. But your question about how the CCHLT, the Center County Housing and Land Trust, would be navigating the HUD funding, we're not eligible to receive the HUD funding. That is why we're partnering with a developer who has access to work through the HUD programs that are for developers to maintain the affordability for those years. The interesting part that the Land Trust brings to it is the perpetual affordability that a HUD program does not bring. Does that answer that?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot, actually.
Yes, Mr. Heller.
So I'm going to start this off, but I want to make sure I ask for a little grace when I bring this up, because I've driven through that neighborhood and I see a lot of open space between houses. We talk about accessory dwelling units. We talk about other ways of doing it. We know that open space, a lot of land between houses, is probably not what we should be looking when we think about supporting the working community, supporting low-income housing. Density is where those numbers come in. The developers that you're working with, is there discussion? Are there talks about increasing density in the area, or is it really just preserving something that was 30 years old that may not actually fit or support the economy or the region as it should, or the people that need the housing the way that they need to be supported?
Hi, Adam Brobaugh, board member of the Land Trust. In this particular case, this is about preserving what is there. In a contemporary situation, if this was a brand new build that was going to happen today, I think all the points that you just mentioned are dead on. I think that those would be the types of things, looking at density, looking at maximizing the utility of the land, those would be things that would absolutely be front and center in terms of consideration for a new type of development. In this particular case, and as I understand it, this, and I think we talked a little bit about this last time we were present, this particular development is a bit of a unicorn, given the fact that it was developed as single-family units. They were not duplexes by and large, or higher density kinds of situations. That took advantage of the program funding that was available at the time. So in this particular case, while there may be what we would consider today more space than maybe is needed or necessary between units, this is really about preserving what is there. In terms of the conversations that we have had with the developer at this particular point in time, there's been no indication of significant changes that might be made to the overall landscape, if you will, relative to the units.
So,
But just to Adam's point, these were 49 single-family homes that went through the land development process here in Ferguson. Gosh, probably 31, probably 33, 34 years ago. So the funding that was available, it was a one-time. Let's see from the government. Let's see if single-family homes works in this. So those homes all met Ferguson Township's planning and zoning requirements of that time. As far as improvements, the homes themselves will be rehabilitated and renovated. But as far as doing anything to come back through a land development plan to tear down houses and replace them, that's really not been any part of our discussion because there's families living in the homes.
and I want to be clear, I'm not advocating for that at all. I'm asking, like, if we pass something for accessory dwelling units, do we have the ability, if that owner says, hey, we could put an ADU on each of these properties and increase density and support low income? Are we precluding that option by going with this discussion? That's my concern.
The only answer that I would have to that is that the funding sources that would be utilized in terms of the Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Fair Program requirements, which likely dictate much of that in terms of what could be done with ancillary property. We don't know that at this time, but again, once the various funding sources are cobbled together to pursue this project, that will become more apparent.
Okay, and thank you for that, because again, knowing the area, it's a unique area. And when we think about our ADU discussion, and we think about other things, we have a unique opportunity that I see here to keep people where they are, provide the housing that they need, and also maybe expand that to others that need that same support in a unique area. So that's where I'm going with this, and I appreciate the discussion tonight.
And just to kind of put a post-it on that, because we do not have that currently, where the current owner could start putting ADUs. That's something that after our regulations here in Ferguson, I say our because I'm a resident, so once our regulations change, that's something that I know with other financing, through FAIR and through others, you can go back and say, we received funding to do this, now there is this enhancement, and you can go back to the funder and say, now we have this enhancement that will create more or will allow us to do this more, environmentally friendly, and they can then say, well, because it's changed, you can do these. It's not guaranteed, but they are pretty good about looking at it and saying, well, if there's been an improvement, they're not going to come back and say the rule changed and now you can't have that house there, move it. But if they say you can now have an ADU, you can go back and say, if it works for the developer, to make that question, be asked to the funder.
Thank you for that. I always appreciate the pragmatism of the discussion, and yes, having options is very important, so. Thank you, those are my only questions.
Any other questions?
Yeah. So I think my question the last time was, what's the deal? And so, is there a framework of a deal?
Well,
Yeah.
we don't have any kind of contractual arrangement at this point in time between the land trust and the developer. Because quite frankly, until such time as sufficient funds are raised or pledged, there's no need to have that in place. So essentially what we do know is, we do know that in working with the developer, we know that there will be a cost of approximately $300,000 worth of work that will be necessary in order to get a full application created and submitted for funding consideration. So we have a bit of a breakdown of some of those costs that are involved in that $300,000. So that's some additional information that we have this evening that we did not have the last time we were here, I believe in November. So we can provide you with that. But as far as an actual deal or a contract or an agreement of any kind, we do not have that in place at this time.
Copy that. I believe that the township absolutely has an obligation to kind of contribute, and I think we should. But there's no free lunch, is where I'm going. This is coming from somewhere, and so I think that there's an opportunity to get a deal, to get something that, hey, we put this money in, we are upfront in soft costs. And so in any development, soft costs have equity. Equity is then kind of, it could be a small something, it could be, certainly number one is we've retained these units. It was 49. That's the biggest win for us all. However, over time, hey, maybe that's all coming back, and then we can invest it in something else. The next big thing that comes along that we need to try to save. So I am uncomfortable. I am very comfortable pledging dollars today. I feel like hearing what I've heard, feel much better. Like, let's make the pledge, but I want a deal. I want a deal personally, meaning something that's very clearly saying the township is participating. We're putting money in pari passu with everybody else, all the other funders, all the other people coming in. If this doesn't happen, then we're out of those dollars. But if it does happen, then the township should participate. So I think that's where I am, is that, we yes, pledge and participate, and, dollar for dollar with all the other funders, but we need something in writing that says, here is your return for your risk, the risk you are taking, township. It shouldn't just be the township taking a risk like willy-nilly and for fun. There's some returnsies, if you will.
Yeah, I see that as potentially problematic. I'm not certain that there is going to be that type of, especially if we're talking like a monetary return. Your point is well taken. The real benefit to Ferguson Township, to the broader community, is the preservation of the 49 units. That's really the takeaway. The other thing that you could say about the dollars that would be invested or pledged at this point into these soft costs is that for approximately the $300,000 that we're trying to gather pledges for, that's going to leverage approximately $19 million worth of additional investment in those 49 units in terms of not only the acquisition, but in the renovation of those units. In terms of an actual, and given the way that it is anticipated that a final contract or an agreement would be structured, the land trust would be involved in this in order to, in perpetuity, provide that ongoing affordability element to those 49 units, which goes much further beyond than what the original 30-year period of affordability guarantee existed. So I'm not sure.
Let me save you some words. I want to know what the deal is. And you don't know, right? You said it, we don't have a deal.
What we do know, we don't know specifics, and we can't say we have a deal. I mean, you're talking to someone with a law degree here, background, married to a lawyer. Like, so when someone says, what's the deal? To me, that means we have come to a memorandum of understanding, an agreement, a contractual relationship. For the developer to be able to move forward, to try to secure the funding, and this particular developer has a very good track record of doing these types of projects, getting support from the community in the smaller amount, which to me $300,000 is not a small amount, but when you're looking at a $19 to $20 million project, it's a smaller investment. But by having us be involved in the community, crowdfunding, if you will, for all of us to be a part, these units, these homes will be affordable for 30 years. But by all of us being a partner and the land trust kind of being the cog in the middle that has the agreement with all the different municipalities or the organizations, we can then say these are not affordable for 30 years. These are affordable for the 30 years and then another 99. So that's where that perpetuity comes in. And the reinvestment in the properties is going to help raise those property taxes, keep the families there, and hopefully give them security to move up and out. So then a new family can move into that development in our municipality. But until we know that we can come up with even close to the 300,000, I don't know that we're going to be able to have a concrete. And you're right, we could do this application and not be funded in the first year. So then we have to reapply. Does that mean all the 300,000 costs are incurred again? It doesn't. But we may have to go through the application twice. But to save those 49 homes, we just really think that we have to do what we can to try.
Yeah, you have zero opposition on saving it's about I'd love to see the financials once they're ready. And kind of the terms. I think that's where I am. Because again, if you're in up front, you have equity. And so what does equity equal in this particular deal? I don't know the answer to that. If the equity equals 99 more years of affordability, then okay, got it. But I want to see it. How about that? I'd like to see that. And that also feeds a policy for us. So I get it. This is not, we need to create a policy now. But this will lead to a policy like, hey, here's how we're going to frame this such that we put in dollars, we don't get dollars, but we get units forever. Okay, great. And then there's our policy. That at a minimum we get units forever, and at a maximum we get return on some 30-year deal.
Well, and if I may, I'm going to take the Sylvan View hat off for a second and step into my Ferguson Township third-party administrator hat. That is something that is already on the books through the workforce housing ordinance that clearly states that with the housing fund, there has to be a policy created for how those funds will be spent, what manners, what oversight, all those. So that's something, if you're looking at housing, that's something that's already on the ordinance that this board or some board has to create that policy and that policy manual at some point. So those are already, and it hasn't happened, but it hasn't happened because there hasn't been a fee in lieu come in yet, but that's going to be changing. So I think, to your point, you do have to have the policies, the procedures for how do you spend funds for housing, and that is tied in with the workforce housing. This is just affordable housing that's not being generated through the ordinance because it's already existing.
It's not existing though. Like those units are now market rate. So we're actually going to take them back to affordable in some number of minutes.
Because they were under LIHTC, those individuals were given the option to stay, and their rent, if you recall back in November, I said there's an escalator. Now for some of the families, they've had to move, but the owner has committed to not sell until the person who's interested can come back and say, yes, we're going to do this, and these people are going to stay, or no, they're not. So I'm choosing to say preserve because I don't want the residents there to feel like, well, we're going to, oh, it has to be brought back. I'm going to get kicked out tomorrow. So to Supervisor White's point, this is a real big conversation happening everywhere. So I just want to be careful about that.
Legally, they're no longer in the program. And
The
they can.
light tech
Yeah.
affordability
Life Tech is over.
is over. Mhm.
So we are looking to preserve that and get it back into the legal framework of the program or some program.
Into a different program,
Different
yes.
program. Good. I'm good, thank you.
Or anyone on this side that had anything they wanted to add?
I just wanted to just reference a few historical decisions made by the board and acknowledge that also within the strategic plan, there's 3 different goals that line up with this opportunity to consider contribution this evening. And also with that stated, I'll state that I believe it was in year 2024, the township did pass by resolution a contribution to center markets, a different context in that was more supporting economic development, and this is more supporting housing. Arguably the two could be interwoven, but I just kind of want to bring back to the forefront for the board's consideration that within your authority to do so, you certainly can consider a contribution or not, of course, but if you do, I just want to acknowledge you're not establishing a precedent. That we have, the board has taken action to provide a contribution to a individual who wanted to advance economic development by way of putting up it was center markets. To say it was a restaurant is incorrect, but it had a unique different category, and ultimately what the owner was trying to do was apply for USDA funds to further support and was looking for the township to provide a match. And the township did provide a match that provided that support. And in year 1, the application, if I recall correctly, was denied. In year 2, the applicant got the funds through USDA and therefore was able to leverage the funds from the township. So just providing that as a reference for those that may not have been seated at the time the board made that decision.
So temporarily restricted funds almost, essentially like we would commit funds contingent on their approval for the USDA. They got the approval in the second year. Then we made the commit on year 2. Is that what I'm?
That was correct.
Okay.
Right.
So
So in this case, maybe it's an application, or maybe it's the developer's ability to acquire the total soft funds to be able to execute the plan. I don't know what that might look like. I won't be here for those discussions, but I thought I'd provide that as a historical frame of reference.
And I recall the one for center markets, it came with some structure. It wasn't just,
The
here's a
resolution.
check, but there was like parameters, you gotta get the grant, you gotta, meet A, B, and C, and you get the money, so.
And with nonprofits, I mean, you all have to file your 990s every year anyhow, and so like the allocations are already, like there is already tracking mechanisms in place for the commitment of the funds. So I'm not really seeing the issue here with committing the funds.
Yep. Yeah. I think Mr. Heller had something as well.
And I appreciate the manager bringing up the historical context with center markets. What was that amount that was?
I will look up for confirmation here before the end of the meeting, but I want to recall it was maybe 10,000 in year 1 and 10,000 in year 2.
Sounds about right.
And I believe, and it sounds like, are we looking, because college has issued, or, $50,000, is that what the ask is?
Well, the ask could be as
$3
much
million.
as $300,000 in total, or it could be wherever the board is comfortable.
Okay, great, thank you. Again, historical context, appreciate it.
More would be better.
I appreciate that it's more as well, because it's in our township.
Right,
So-
right.
Yeah. And there's 49 units, you said? And so it's almost like $1,000, or, well, maybe College Township. You can, was there any conversation to break it down to per unit?
I can see, College Township years ago had obligated a portion of general fund dollars in a reserve account for affordable housing, or for workforce housing specifically. Over the years, only a portion of that money was actually utilized. Up until recently, we now have a few different projects that are moving. But there was a $50,000 balance, if you will, that was there. And so College Township Council simply committed to the pledge to the land trust for this particular purpose. Again, it's a recognized need throughout the Center region and also Center County at this point in time. And so they felt strongly enough about that to support their funding.
Do you have a motion? We can take a look at that.
Yeah, I moved to commit to $150,000 in funding with disbursements after there's a clarity on a deal.
This is Trevor, I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Patterson, second by Mr. White. Any further discussion on this?
And I think we've talked a lot about what a deal means, but I'll just say it. It is, how does that equity participate? Just bluntly.
I actually don't know what you mean by that. I would like, I'm not trying to be like.
No, it's okay. I
I
have
feel like-
real estate development experience.
Yeah, and I would love to
I've
know.
developed low-income housing, and I've used state and local dollars to do so.
What does it mean for equity to show up? What is that? What like?
How does equity participate?
What is that? What is equity then? That's my question. Is like I don't know the
Great
definition.
question. So in any real estate development, a developer says, hey, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, and it's generally around, well, it's X amount of dollars to get things kicked off. It's architecture, engineering, kind of financing packages. You take all that, and then you take it to a bank. You say, bank, I want some construction funding and pre-development funding. And then they will say, yep, I like what you got there, I'll give you some money. And so your equity that you put in is that there's a percentage of the deal. They're saying that money is then receiving returns once the project's fully built out. It's the most expensive money in a project
Okay, so like the initial.
because it's the
costs.
most risky. Project could be cut, the municipality could say, nope, we don't meet the zoning. The state application, they can say, nope, we're not gonna give you money this year, wait till next year. It's the most risky money, and so again, that's fine if it's, we're gonna put the money in, and then Housing Land Trust has a perpetual price on those homes, or rent, or it's only up with CPI, whatever it is. But if there's something more, like, I don't know, $100 a year. All right, cool. So after 1,000 years, we'll have our money back.
Okay. So basically, like the equation of like how long.
Return on investment.
Yeah. So
Return
how long
of
until
equity.
we see. So, but that's the thing. We're not loaning it. It's just like that's the language that you like. I'm trying to like understand what you're like. I'm not trying to like sound crass here. I'm just trying to understand like where you're coming from. Like, is this like? Are you viewing this as a loan?
This is equity. Again, the most expensive money in a deal. It is, we are putting in money for this development to occur, and so again, from a,
I was just gonna say somebody who's poor and never did anything. Like I don't understand what you. I really don't. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to understand here.
Yeah, I mean, this is real. This is development. So when people go, you developers should do more, they're saying it from a place of maybe not knowing. I know, so I'm giving you the Cliff's Notes to development. Developers, and we are now a part of this development. If we give money, we're a funder. It's a startup in Silicon Valley.
Well,
There's the Series A, Series B. That's the first bit of money, and the percentage return that it gets. It's the highest percentage return. It's also the most risky. So I'm just simply saying that if we're in on this deal, the long-term affordability to it could be but it could also be some amount of money every year. Like, hey, there's distributions from this, and Ferguson Township should receive some.
so you're curious more about like what the return on investment is and what that looks like.
That's right.
Okay.
So
Thanks for summarizing.
if this were a fee in lieu, the fee in lieu program that we have, and we come up with our policies for that, it would be a similar thing for anything we would use in the future if it was just a fee in lieu.
I think we should.
So, okay, so this is.
I think that this is an opportunity to kind of invest in things all over and allow it to grow and build. And then if there's some residual returns to the municipality, then like we should get some. Just the same way they were gonna get property taxes for the maintenance of the roads, well, there's some other things that we did early on that we should probably receive some returns on too. Just my view.
I can't wrap my head around
I
that,
get,
but
yeah, so my
in
hang
general,
up
I'm
is like, what does it
supportive of
mean?
this.
What does it mean for you when you say we need to see returns on it? Like, what do those returns mean to you, like us as a township? Because in my mind, I'm thinking like a lot of the non-monetary investments that y'all were talking about like how some of these lower income individuals can like build that intergenerational mobility, move out, and you have more, like you have this, you know, harder to quantify return on investment. Is that what you mean? Or do you mean actual money coming back to the township? Like, this is where I'm trying to figure out what you.
I don't know what their deal is yet, so I couldn't even tell you. But has anybody seen a pro forma?
No, well, no. I can guarantee you that there's not going to be funding any funds that come back on an annual or regular basis. So as far as an actual tangible return on investment that we would typically speak of, I do not anticipate that exists. The return on the investment in this particular case is going to be preservation of those homes for that period of time. That is the primary return on investment. This is not something that folks may be familiar with. Various municipalities or authorities, I know the IDAs, oftentimes, or even the chamber, have a revolving loan fund. And the chambers or the IDAs would actually put forward money. Those funds as in the form of a loan, and those funds are paid back. That definitely you can quantify as having a return on investment because there's an interest payment, there's penalties, different things like that could generate a return back to the municipality. This is not that, and I think that is probably the best example that I have to be able to make that distinction between that type of an economic development type program and this particular type of housing program.
Yes, so whenever we can get it in writing that it isn't that, there's never gonna be a distribution, but we will retain 49 units for in perpetuity, then that's what it will be. I'm okay. But it may also be something different. I'd love to see the performance.
And if I may, it seems cold, it seems callous when we talk about 49 units. I rather think of these as 49 families. 49 families to support in our community with an investment that also supports a developer in maintaining and keeping those families where they are. And opens the door for an understanding that we're here to support families for future conversations that might be happening across the township. I'm good with the $150,000 for different reasons than were presented here, and moving forward with that. But thank you.
And just doing a little bit of math, for $150,000, you're talking $3,061 per family invested, $7.50 per township-wide resident being contributed to this.
I like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, my questions were, it was because of the way you were phrasing this, as well as the attached agenda item. It sounded like you were thinking about like loan, like that's why I just wanted to like drill down into what specifically was meant, is because there was a disconnect with me. So apologies. Thank you for hearing me out. Yes.
That's deliberation.
I just want to confirm, Chair, that yes, Resolution 2024-14 did support the board's action to contribute $10,000 in year one and $10,000 in year two for center markets. I pulled it up. I just remembered the center markets, but I did.
If there is no further discussion on this or any questions, this will just be a voice vote. Don't necessarily have anything formal around, but we're, going to just pledge to 150, and then we'll revisit this as we get more details and a structured agreement together. So, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. We appreciate your confidence, and we'll be back with additional details. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right. Now we'll move us then into new business on tonight's consent agenda. And these are just going to be items that we approve with a yes or no. We do allow board members to take a moment to remove them if they want to discuss them further or ask questions. So I usually will call on that at the beginning, but I'll run through these, and if nobody wants to remove anything, we just take a vote to approve and go from there. So we have an approval of a revision of Personnel Policy 19.4, the Employee Assistance Plan, as well as an approval for Mischief Managed LLC PLEAC Accreditation Assistance Services Agreement. So if nobody wants to pull those, take a motion to entertain the consent agenda.
No, I want to be real brief, but yes, I would like to pull item 1B.
1B, okay.
Because I have 3 questions, because I went through the agenda
All right.
packet. And so
Well, yeah, if I was going to say if I could call a vote
Yes.
for
Oh, yeah,
1A,
apologies.
yeah, 1A, I'll do that, and then we can go, open the floor up for 1B.
sorry.
All those in favor of approving consent agenda 1A, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Great. Next up, we have approval for Mischief Managed LLC PLEAC Accreditation Assistance Services Agreement, and I will recognize Supervisor White.
Yeah, so I was going through this, and I had a couple of questions about PLEAC. I went through their, am I saying it right?
You are saying it.
All right, cool. So yeah, I went through their website and saw what it is that they intend to do, and so I have, like I said, I have 3 questions. So one, is this the same Lieutenant Daniel Lewis? Like he worked here? Okay. Because I know there was and I want to be clear, this is not me saying anything negative about anybody in particular. I'm just curious because I know that we as supervisors are not allowed to be consultants after a set amount of time within our tenure. And I'm curious, is that maybe do we need to revisit that for other staff members? Because it's the same kind of incentive mechanisms. We have people that have insider knowledge about, and again, this is not me saying that Mr. Lewis has any a perverse incentive or anything like that. I'm not trying to make any accusation. I'm just uniformity, I guess.
Slippery slope.
Yes. So that is my primary question. If it was it is him, that's why I wanted to ask that question. If that's something that we want to think about in the future. Right now, this is an accreditation. I went through the standards manual. It looks like it's just going to be an audit. He's just going to come through and be like, yes, we have these policies. And then presents it to the individuals. And then, I would love to know.
Yeah, and between the township manager and I will try to answer your question.
Yeah, sorry.
Just a little bit of background. The Ferguson Township Police is an accredited agency. PLEAC, which is the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, does establish standards, 132 professionally sound standards for law enforcement. You need to meet those to be accredited. The agency got accredited in 2017, and then every 3 years after that, you go for reaccreditation. So we got reaccredited in 2020, 2023, and our next reaccreditation is in May of 2026. Because of staffing changes in the police department during 2025, we have 4 more months to get all of the evidence that we practice and follow, the 132 for professionally accepted standards. 4 months to go, we need some assistance besides what we can provide within the department. So the reason for the request, doesn't answer your first question, but the reason for the request is so that we can maintain our accredited status when they come in and 3 assessors come in independently and come in and look at the agency and review for the past 3 years all of our practices and are we following all of our standards. So Lieutenant Lewis, who has served in the department for about 14 years, has knowledge of the accreditation program. He also, the way in which you prove the professional standards is you have to show cases during the year in which it shows evidence that you're meeting the standard. One of them was tonight when Chief Wilson got sworn in. One of the things you have to show is that all officers take an oath that says that they won't discriminate based on age, sex, etc. That you would have heard tonight in an oath. That is a proof tonight for this year. You have to go through that for 3 years, 2 proofs. So there's a lot of work. We need assistance to get the work done. So that's what this would be. It would be for no more than a 4-month period because that's when our accreditation date is. I will turn to the manager. I'm not aware of, I do know that for police chiefs and for township managers, there are some restrictions within 1 year after you leave employment and what you can or can't do with that same agency. I would have to seek advice from the solicitor, but I don't know whether the township manager might know otherwise.
Right, and so I'm happy to share that it's not legally prohibited, right? And it's not necessarily going to raise any immediate ethical issues. There are guardrails that need to be put in place. So for example, if you look at the contract that's been provided both times, which was reviewed closely and considered, there's specific language that acknowledges he's not supervising, nor is he influencing any internal operational decisions. And those are the guardrails that are given consideration to reduce risk. And so considered also if an audit is done in terms of again, it's not legally prohibited, but there are certain things that one would consider when you're looking through and making those determinations. And his contract, the agreement with the township is clearly stating that he is not providing oversight, there's no influence, and then there's a lot of this work can be done in such a manner where he can, for example, work independent of other officers, so we know that there's no opportunity for any perceived supervisory. But those are the only types of considerations that one might have, and I'm sure interim township manager will consult with the solicitor. So if those guardrails aren't already taken into consideration and addressed in the contract that he submitted, then we can certainly do that and bring it back for your consideration. But the assessment that has been conducted with the contract that's been put in front of you is recommended for your consideration. And again, everything that Mr. King has shared is certainly the priority at this point in time, and we're just so gracious and appreciative that former employee Daniel Lewis is willing to do that through his firm.
Like I said, this is not meant to,
Understood.
But I appreciate the question. I mean, there are some restrictions, as already echoed, like what you can and can't do if you are serving and providing services, the format that you would have to do for in the manager role or in the chief of police role. If you're providing any additional services, there are particular ways that has to be done.
and so you said we've been accredited since 2017?
2017.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, because I saw it's Ferguson, Patton, and the State College Borough that have been accredited by PLEAC.
That's correct.
Since you used to work at the State College Borough, if you don't mind me asking, do you know how long the State College Borough has been accredited?
Our first accreditation was 2008.
2008, okay. Alrighty.
They're up for reaccreditation this summer as well.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. You actually answered the other questions.
Okay.
I had, so.
And if I'm correct, even the number of accredited departments across the state is still relatively low. So, it really elevates us to maintain and continue that.
Yeah, it's about 15% of the police departments in Pennsylvania are accredited.
Is there a motion I have to make or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, just right for me to, I guess I could just call
I didn't know if I'm the one that pulls it. I have to, anyway.
Actually, yeah, I need a motion for that. Can I get a motion to approve that item?
This is Trevor. I move to approve consent agenda item 1B, approval for Mischief Managed LLC PLEAC accreditation assistance services agreement.
And do we have a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. White, second by Ms. Stevens. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, next up, we have a public hearing on a resolution to adopt Fourth Economy's Economic Development Plan, and I will recognize the Township Manager.
Thank you, and provided with the agenda is a summary of the narrative as well as a recommended motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
This is a public hearing, so I will open the floor for a public hearing, and Mr. Keogh is making his way forward. And then once Mr. Keogh is finished, we'll take any online public hearing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the board. Bill Keogh, Ferguson resident. My experience in government includes a lesson I was taught a number of years ago, that words matter. And when I looked at this particular item, I was particularly struck by the fact that it listed a hearing on the resolution to adopt the Fourth Economy's Economic Development Plan. Historically, I tend to remember, and this is for Mr. Patterson, because he sometimes asks me about past history, I tend to remember that when we receive a report, especially from a consultant, we do not typically adopt that, but rather receive it. And I'm suggesting that we change the motion, that the Board of Supervisors receive the Fourth Economic Development Plan rather than adopt that plan. My concern is a question. Does adopt in the resolution and the motion have any intent or implication that there might be some funding considered forward as an obligation to adopting the plan as it is presented? Thank you.
Interesting you asked that question. I have heard some funding sources at times will require there be a formal plan adopted in order for you to qualify for funding. So, just something I remembered from somebody else.
Absolutely. So you might recall I think the most recent plan the board has adopted is the RPOS, Recreation, Parks and Open Space Plan, in terms of having something brought forward to the board for consideration for adoption. And so it becomes a policy item that you take action on. In this particular case, I believe that these recommendations, maybe the stamp program may have been the most recent one. I know I just prepared that transfer of knowledge over to your incoming interim with a status update on recommendations that had been updated and things that were currently in progress. So we can look to confirm the language, but it's generally adopt or accepted. Those are the two words that have been interchanged and used, recognizing that this is a plan that guides the action of staff, and it also positions us for grants. Right. And so the this was generated through the ARC program, which is a federally funded program, and yes, to be eligible to continue to receive funding, we would want to have the board formally accept at the very least, or adopt, interchangeable, for purposes of moving this forward. But we went through the proper procedures. You might recall that in order to submit the grant for Appalachia Regional Commission, it was submitted to the Board of Supervisors in the form of a resolution. Board took action to approve that. Then staff executed that policy, submitted for the grant, received the grant, and then engage the formal consultant, Fourth Economy. The board accepted the designation of Fourth Economy to take this work on with the scope of work that was presented. And that is what they have done, and now it's presented to the Board of Supervisors for formal action, whether we call it adoption or acceptance. It is the action the board takes this evening that gives guidance for where the blueprint is, what the blueprint looks like for the Board of Supervisors and the Township for the next couple of years.
This is a public hearing, so anyone else online?
So Maya is with Fourth Economy, if there are any questions.
Okay, we do have a representative from Fourth Economy here. If there was no further public comments, I'll close the public hearing and allow the board opportunity for any questions. Mr. Heller.
Yeah, and the term adopt does have me a little concerned, especially knowing that we are going to have an interim township manager and potentially a new township manager in the near future, and obligating them to anything that we've adopted in the 11th hour doesn't seem appropriate at this point. However, I can be okay with accepting the presentation, accepting the information, or receiving it. Accepting and receiving are very different than adopting, by definition. So I would be okay with accepting this. And it's very similar to what we did with COG when CDICC came in, and we said we don't have to agree with everything in it, but we can acknowledge that we have received and that it's, to the benefit to have this information. That's where I am with this, but we should not be adopting this at this point with manager changes, etc.
But this was an initiative that was approved by the board that staff has been executing.
Absolutely, but in no way was I under the impression that we were going to do more than receive it, like we've received most things.
Okay.
I didn't see anything early on that said, no, we were going to stamp and adopt this as the way that we have to move forward, and that's where I draw a little bit of a distinction. Actually, a very different distinction.
Hold up my C's. Okay. Mr. Patterson.
Why adopt versus receive? Why did we choose the adopt path today?
I need to research that.
Well, they said accept is okay, if we accept it.
I'm just curious, but why adopt? Like, a path was chosen and it's in the agenda, right, for us to adopt. I'm just curious, what's the purpose for adopting? And I think what I thought I heard was, well, we did it for this other thing and it was good because we adopted it, and there's some grants that say you must adopt a thing and show that you adopted it. So that's the why adopt today, or just kind of precedent? If I were to ask kind of. I was bringing it to the chair.
It's a great question, but I think that the response may be admittedly a little disappointing, that there's not much of a difference. It's essentially the board is endorsing the plan, and and I'll just kind of remind the board that it's consistent with our historical practices. It's also kind of what the board does, and this particular process was done in a very due diligent way. It came to you in the form of, hey, board, here's an initiative. Economic development is aligned with your strategic plan, which is your policy to enact, and you enacted your strategic plan in 2023. You acknowledged economic development was a priority. Then, of course, staff, at the direction of the manager, prioritizes a work plan. Economic development was prioritized, also aligning with what we did for center markets, earlier discussed in another agenda item. And so then we wrote for a grant, or first, before we wrote for the grant, we brought it to the board and said, hey, board, we would like to consider your strategic plan initiatives and your goals, and as part of that, we've identified economic development in this grant. We are considering writing for a grant that will provide a 50% match to what we're anticipating cost for economic development strategic plan, because we want to see economic development. We want to see growth within the township. We want to see diversification for revenue strategies, and we want to take this action in a very strategic way. And to do that, we realize staff does not have the capacity or the bandwidth to prioritize that in the midst of all other things. So we brought to the board in the form of a resolution, also held with a public hearing for your consideration, talked through this Appalachia Regional Commission grant process for your approval or denial. The board approved submitting a grant to ARC. We invested time first to submit an executive summary asking for Appalachia Regional Commission just to even consider us as someone that could apply for the grant. We submitted that. We got a acknowledgement, hey, Ferguson Township, thank you for submitting your executive summary. You are now invited to formally submit a grant. We invested a great deal of time to submit that grant at the direction of the policy approved by the board by resolution to submit for the grant, to take this work on seriously, to bring back to the board ultimately what was approved in the strategic plan, the goal of advancing economic development, but in a very strategic way. We did that. We brought to the board a very methodical approach with a committee structure, with staff representing, I believe, the assistant manager, the finance director, myself. There's one other person that I can't remember who was in the room. We reviewed the proposals. I believe we got 11 proposals. I'm looking to finance director and the assistant manager, and I'm going through this level of detail because I won't be here, and so it's also another opportunity for a transfer of knowledge. But we had a considerable amount of proposals that we went through, and we did a criterion, and we brought back for interview 7 to 10 applicants who submitted, and we went through a very formalized structure, selected fourth economy, brought that to the Board of Supervisors. Hey, board, let's consider this entity who submitted. We vetted them. We're recommending that we bring them on to do the economic development strategic plan. The board approved that consultant and their scope of work. They've been invested side by side with our planning and zoning director, our assistant township manager, and our part-time temporary economic development coordinator, Kendi Alvarez, to bring together an ad hoc steering committee that served as a sounding board and provided guidance to inform this plan that is being brought to you this evening. Whether you want to consider it an acceptance or you want to consider it an adoption, it is ultimately continuing in a process that has been formally professional and procedurally correct, that can be your guiding blueprint for economic development, that aligns and has also been endorsed by the CDICC executive director at the podium at a previous meeting, who said Ferguson Township doing an economic development plan is complementary to what we're doing at the county level. So I just go through all of that kind of as a courtesy in this meeting to help Mr. King also understand the process and the amount of time that's been invested by staff, taking responsible care to bring to the board and proper steps taken in the process for approval. And so this evening, back full circle to answer your question, Supervisor Patterson, quite honestly, I don't see a distinction that's very great, worth determining one or the other. Received, you can say received, but it's ultimately the action itself. You've received it, and it has been, in part, it has already been approved to say, this is your plan, Ferguson Township. This is what's going to guide planning and zoning to take action. They're going to align anything economic development related aligned with your plan, and your plan speaks to a lot of what you have shared, because our staff keeps listening and wants to perform in a way that supports economic development. Revenue diversification is embedded and recognized throughout this plan. Housing, affordability, zoning ordinance changes. These are all things that are aligned and congruent with what the board has shared. Acceptance, adoption, I wish I could tell you that there's a huge difference. There's really not. Once the action is taken this evening, assuming you accept or adopt, it's going to guide your interim and your future township manager. It may be that your interim decides to not prioritize during his interim. He'll make that decision, and your next future manager, just like all other items that you've approved, stamp-related organizational assessments, CIPs, all of those, your next township manager is going to walk into all of the policy-oriented documents and take responsibility to execute those policies.
Next question, to the extent that there is some sort of funding that we go after that requires a board document, if the word accept is on this resolution instead of adopt, are they gonna care? Maybe you already said that in your final sentence, but I just wanna, yes or no on that question.
It's hard to tell what a grantor at this time in this environment, right? We know funds are restricted. In previous times, I would say generally that's not, that verbiage would not really kind of stall the process or progress. Admittedly, I don't know what it looks like in the next few years based on the delays with the state budget and other landscape markers at the federal level. So, I'm being honest here. I don't know. Adoption clearly makes a clear level of support. Acceptance, I think, can be arguably the same thing. If you want the highest level of opportunity for grant, you go with adoption.
Right.
If you want opportunity for your next manager to be creative with leveraging all things, acceptance would work.
If I may, like, we're adopting this now, but like, what's to stop a board from coming in the future and adopting something different, or like doing something like this isn't set in stone. So if we adopt it now, it doesn't seem like it shows that we have ideological commitment to what you just said, like the community buy-in here, all the work that's been put in. Like words mean things, and it means that we're committed to our community that put in all the work to get here. Because I mean, you and I were both at one of these meetings, which helped contribute to this document. Like this was a community built document, is building on legacy. So I do think the adoption word matters more than just grants, but also like the commitment that we have to everybody throughout this process. So,
and I'll just echo one thing quickly. Yes, and at the end of the day, at least the approach that I've taken, there's nothing we've done in a vacuum at a staff level. So in a scenario where we go to execute a recommendation that's in that plan, it doesn't just happen without you knowing. It's generally on a consent agenda for your approval that you can pull for further discussion, or it's an agenda item if staff's uncomfortable moving forward without your input. The plan itself is just a way to say, this is what we stand for, this is what we want to see more of. How we get there is, again, another phase of another process that, under my leadership, my experience and understanding with your incoming interim township manager, his leadership, everything's going to come through you in one form or another, because we can't do anything without money. And generally, we don't do much without engaging your constituents through some type of public engagement, which you would know about.
Yeah, I'm thinking adoption's the way to go on this. I'll let you, yeah.
So then if I may just ask the question, by adopting this, are we committing funds in any of what's been offered?
No.
Nope.
Any fund request will always need to come back to the board. That's a very simple.
Oh, yes.
Any funding comes through the board, whether it's through a budget process or an individual request through consent agenda or new business discussion.
So then why I asked this is really to set up the next point, which is a matter of, it's on us, like it is in the finance committees at COG and other discussions, to then recognize when things come in and truly look at them closely as to whether or not we fully agree with any investment associated with the plan is best for the township. And we do that. But I want to encourage us again, or empower or strengthen our commitment, if we could strengthen our commitment, I should say, to taking a hard look at these things when they come across and really getting involved. I think that would do us all a good service, and the residents here as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And good point. I'm actually thinking of an example from Northland Mobility Study. We had that rapid flashing beacon crossing, and then Patty's like, why don't we move the bus stop? And we got to thinking and went to the drawing board, asked a few people, and we moved the bus stop. Saved ourselves, what, a couple $100,000? But even though plan said this, we found another,
Right, and
so yeah, it's,
I'm sorry, and why I say that too is because these can be a very slippery slope, where all it takes is board members to say, but we've adopted this, and everyone says,
Yeah.
oh, that's right, we adopted it, signed over the $3.2 million. No, we have to be committed to taking hard looks at the monies that are expensed towards this. That's all I'm saying.
right, kind of think of it at the end of the day more as a toolkit than we want all this stuff, and then when you get to the checkout counter, you pay the bill anyhow, even though it's maybe not necessarily the most sustainable model.
I have a question.
Yes.
What work plan changes have been made based on, or are in the works based on this document?
Nothing, it hasn't been approved.
Right.
So no one's thinking about work plan changes?
That's a discussion for your incoming interim manager when he has had time to review, assuming it gets adopted tonight. If it were me, and I don't know, I'll look to Mr. King to speak about how he may prioritize this during his tenure.
Yeah, obviously some staff have been very much involved with this. If this is adopted or accepted, I'd be meeting with staff, I'd be reviewing the plan myself and getting input from them, and then coming forward and saying, this is our work plan regarding this. And obviously any funding decisions are gonna have to come to the board and for careful consideration.
Yeah, I think that's where the delineation, where the words matter, is adopted is, in my view, it's like, we're doing this. Accepted is, all right, like the board's like, yep, this is great, and then there's another step before, here's what we're gonna do. In my view of those words.
Right. And
So that's where I am.
But if if you even look at the action steps, like they're vague. So like, if we do something as we adopt it, like what we do with compiling inventory of commercial and flexible spaces, like that is subject to the, I'll say discretion of staff and stuff like that. So like, it's not even committing funds necessarily, because then options would still be presented based upon our adoption. I don't necessarily see this as committing to funds, because no options have even been presented yet. This is just a strategic outlining, here's what we want to do. And we can use that as to figure out what specifically are we going to do for these action steps.
I think it makes a difference for staff in figuring out how to move forward, is that this is a plan that the board has not just been given, but this is a plan that after all the processes that the township manager has just described, very involved process, this is a plan that the supervisors are behind, and they're going to ask staff to move forward. And then when anything comes, we set up priorities and what type of tasks we're going to take on first. Certainly when it comes to funding, we're going to come to the board and say, here's why we believe this is important. It is in our plan, but it doesn't mean that we can fund everything in our plan. So you're going to have to think about whether or not this is the best use of our funds. But clearly, if it's adopted, it tells staff,
right.
We want you to begin to work on this and come forward to us as we work on the plans.
My last statement here, I'm okay with either set of words, doesn't matter. But I would like to see that added step that you just described, the hey, go do, versus the let's talk about it, let's see the new work plan based on this because it's been received, and then go do, after a couple of markups and red lines. That's my, where I say the difference between adopt versus receive or accept. We can accept today, adopt tomorrow after some further massaging of where that work plan is. That would be my.
My only caution would be, we've had a lot of work groups involved in this and helping put together this plan. And I don't know that we want to undo all that work that has been done by staff going through and saying, we want to change this plan that's been presented to us after careful consideration, using a consultant and coming forward with any type of tweaks to the plan.
So then what I just said was misunderstood, and I'm sorry for not saying it the right way. Where I was going, and maybe Matt, if you want to restate it in a better way.
I think you're about to say what I'm going to say. So
You
please
go.
continue.
You go.
Okay, let's see if I'm right here. So I think with the acceptance, it's just a matter of giving approval to go ahead and now give us the plan. Show us what then what the
Work
plan is.
Here's
Yes.
what we want. Here's
Take
what
that
we
step.
plan to do with this.
Precisely, and then come back for the adoption. But it's saying, yeah, let's get those creative ideas flowing, etc. Was I close?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally, staff would move forward after you take the action, that's when we execute. Doing it before then would be not doing, staff would just be doing things. So I would caution you on that. I mean, the way it's written in just about every governing document is that the board takes formal action on policy that informs and directs staff to proceed.
So
And
adopt
looking
and
around,
accept
that's how
is-
we're used to seeing all policy and action get taken.
Adopt and accept isn't necessarily for staff, it's just for meeting the terms of the money that
Right.
we receive.
And we were funded by ARC, so another really important matter here is that this closes out, right? So our ED position closes out either tomorrow or Friday, but this is a formal action in the whole process, right? And so to not take adoption when we had provided federal funds, there's a time frame to get all of this completed, and we are on the tail end of that time frame to get this work completed.
Sorry, but for the terms of purposes of doing this, adopt and accept, you said either word is acceptable.
Right, accept or adoption.
Okay.
I don't think there's a huge distinction. Essentially, you're providing a level of endorsement, or you reject it, which arguably, I don't know that we'll get it. We were the first entity in the center region, in the center county, to receive ARC funds, which was huge. Federally funded program that I know Penn State submitted the same year we did, and they got denied. Most entities that submit. So to maintain in good standing, I would consider accepting or adopting.
I'm going to heavily recommend adoption because it's more of a formal approval. It makes this plan an official board action, and provides direction for staff in future decisions. So, and I think this also, by adopting it, I think it also goes to show a greater level of appreciation for the staff, the consultants, and the residents, and all the other business partners that have helped to draft this. We are, honoring and accepting the work that they have done, and are committing to further that from this point forward. I will entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
This is Trevor. I move that we adopt the resolution.
Do we have a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. White, second by Ms. Stevens. Any further discussion? Yes.
So the hang up on the wording is on the follow-on actions from staff. The ambiguity, the interpretation on your, would there be any difference in the follow-on actions that you take if we say adopt or accept, or would it be the same?
I won't be here, but I would say
Sorry.
no. It's going to be capacity at this point for the next 6 to 9 months. But
Yeah, aside from that capacity issue, we're gonna move forward unless the board tells us otherwise, is that you're endorsing this plan and you want the staff to move forward with executing the plan.
Therein lies my problem,
Do you know?
quite frankly. I think.
This one with the personnel.
Yeah, there's been like a regular, staff doesn't have enough time for X. And so now we're going to adopt this thing, staff's gonna jump and do this thing apparently, that's what I'm hearing. And
No.
if I can finish real quick, staff's gonna go do this thing, and we're gonna hear the same thing of Steph cannot do X, and maybe it's something else. And so that's why I want to holistically understand what's the next thing, what's the impact of the moving forward. So I'll pause there for response.
I will defer to the manager to respond to this.
I'm gonna make it brief, and I know the assistant manager and the incoming interim manager has something to share. I understand what you're sharing, and I appreciate how you just worded that. What I will say is that by adoption does not mean that everything gets pushed to the side and now this is our sole primary priority. What it means is that, for example, as the township manager is collaborating and consulting with the planning and zoning director on the work plan. The planning and zoning director likely already has zoning ordinance updates, for example, because it's been an ongoing discussion and we've seen a number of variances come in. And we also recently applied through the STAMP program for 3 projects that were also recommended on the STAMP program. One of which was looking for funding to assist with engaging a consultant to update Chapter 27, the zoning ordinance. So now you've got 2 plan documents in the scenario that you approve this evening, where zoning ordinance update, the Chapter 27 ordinance update is recognized as a priority, the economic development plan as well as the STAMP program. So in consultation with the planning and zoning director, the township manager is looking to say, based on all the things that you see as a priority, what does this look like? The planning and zoning director acknowledges, well, we've got funding coming in for this, and so this is elevated. But without funding, the update to Chapter 27 could get knocked to a medium to low level in the next 6 to 12 months. It doesn't matter that it's necessarily a goal in the economic development plan. It's all things, managing the daily operations of planning and zoning, the variances that come in, the requests for modifications, the number of land development plans, those items maintain highest level of priority. And if the number of incoming applications for that alone takes up bandwidth, then even if we have funding, let me backtrack. Without funding, just because it's a recognized recommendation does not mean it automatically gets brought to the top and everything gets put to the side because staff's going to start doing Chapter 27 updates alone. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that it's a consultation between the manager and the planning and zoning director, and things perhaps, for example, if we were just receiving for the first time from Center County Housing Land Trust that this opportunity was being presented, that gets elevated to become an item on the board's agenda because it aligns with something in both the economic development plan and in our agreement with the Center County Housing Land Trust. So there's no linear path to say that this automatically gets passed. What it does is it assures the manager and the planning and zoning director that their actions are aligned with policy. So if there's something that somebody says, hey, we want to partner with planning and zoning on X, but it's not even in this economic development plan, like if X is not a goal, it likely, unless if there's something really unique about it, like somebody's going to sponsor financially this initiative of X, it's a low level priority. It's not even on the economic development plan. But if something is aligned with the economic development plan and it's an opportunity that's in front of us submitted by an applicant, then it gets prioritized. So there's just no linear approach. With that, I don't know if interim township manager wants to go first or if James would like to comment.
Actually, that's what I'm going to echo exactly that. Any of the plans, because this question comes up a lot, like whenever the plan is created, then, you get a question about, well, are you going to do any of these things or is the plan just going to sit on a shelf? And the reality is that to echo the manager's point, it's not a one linear process that we go through. It's more iterative and it's more opportunity driven. Sometimes there's a chance to identify things that are being, or opportunities to pull a project together that might incorporate things from multiple plans, from Recreation Parks and Open Space Plan and the Pine Grove Mill Small Area Plan, and that's how we get Cecil Urban Development. And whenever we put that grant application together, which, for that particular development was $500,000, that grant application is referencing all of those things, all of those plans that reference those specific items. So that's really where we're pulling it from, because, and really for grant applications especially, it's critical because they're looking for that synergy between that the plans exist, that they've had public input, and that you are doing something that the project you're requesting funding for is aligned with one of those goals. So it's not step one, step two, step three. It's much more, it's just much more opportunity driven in trying to find projects that come up. Do they fit something that's in a plan that's existing, or is this outside? Is, the opportunity maybe a call, I always use this example because it's facetious, but somebody wants to put a roller coaster in the middle of, the western end of the township. I would say, that's probably no. Let's look at this plan. Well, if that was what the residents wanted, instead of preserving open space and serving agriculture, then that would totally be a different discussion than how you approach that. So, yeah, that's a facetious example, but that is kind of how it works. It kind of gives staff that guidance of where we need to be on things.
If you're ready, I'm ready. Did you want to speak? I can do a roll call vote.
Been covered.
I think Kim would like to speak.
Oh,
I ditto everything that was just said, but also this plan represents a really strong effort to identify needs, and so those needs are going to exist whether this is accepted or not. So it's one thing to consider, and this is a nice, neat package, neat, but of all of that public input, the research from a very professional company that has a lot of experience in Pennsylvania. So just kind of throwing that in, that these are a lot of these are they're very tangible things. They contribute to what will be transformative, but there's no roller coaster in there. There's nothing that's going to be have any shock value. And if we're working on a regional comprehensive plan, if we had our own local comprehensive plan, we'd probably be here pushing that this would be an addendum to the comprehensive plan. Having those guideposts is really helpful in planning and zoning. There's so many things that could be construed as ambiguous in planning and zoning, and to give us talking points is fantastic. We've also been pushing this planning. We've been focusing on people who weren't happy with something and saying, hey, guess what? You have a voice for working on this plan, and their voice is in here. Those that took advantage of that. So, to add to that.
Thank you.
I think these are all great points, but they don't really address the words that we're talking about, delineation between words and kind of but I agree with you. So I hope no one took anything I was saying as if I don't want to do this plan, because that's not the case. It's the words associated with the resolution. And so I'll just pause there.
I'm going to do a roll call vote if the chair is ready.
Yeah, if there's no further discussion, I'll recognize the township manager to call the roll.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote for 2026-04. To adopt the economic development plan as presented to the Board of Supervisors this evening. Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson.
No.
Supervisor Stevens.
Yes.
Supervisor Heller.
No.
Supervisor White.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes with majority vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has invested in their time in completing the surveys, attending the ad hoc committees, and all of the public engagement sessions. Thank you to staff, and thank you to, again, just everyone that has participated to provide input for this plan. And also to Appalachia Regional Commission, particularly Betsy and her staff, who provided assistance and worked closely with our assistant township manager and myself to ensure that our grant application submission met the needs that the federal grantor was looking for, that ultimately provide us with the funds to offset the cost for the great work that Fourth Economy did. And again, many thanks to Fourth Economy for all of their their work in leading us through the development and creation of this plan. And thank you to the Board of Supervisors for approving all of the formal policy documents needed to see us through for this blueprint that is now available for staff in future years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Center Region Council of Governments and Regional Committee reports, and we'll start with Mr. Heller with the Finance Committee.
That was so last year.
It was.
Sorry, I've been waiting for that one all night. We adjourn now, is that?
We're getting there.
The report is in, of course, our agenda. A couple things I will say as we look towards the economic impacts that we're seeing from the federal and the state, well, I should say mostly from federal. We are concerned about costs going forward and recognizing the ripple effects with tariffs and other things, so the COG is keeping an eye on that. We did go through the Code Capital Fund, the Building Capital Fund, Emergency Contingency Fund balance, Pools Operating Fund, and some other things. Also talked about the Active Adult Center, and we're going to continue our conversation about different funds and the fund balances going on to this year, but we really kicked it off, I would say, with our extra meeting that we had in December.
Any questions for Matt? If not, we will reschedule Center Region Parks and Recreation Authority. I believe that's a quarterly report that we take from our representative there, and move on to the Parks and Recreation Governance Committee with Ms. Stevens.
The last meeting, we basically just voted to move forward the agreements with the authority. It should be coming to us for comments to return back to Christy Owen by, it was a March 18th or 19th date or something like that. So, but that has been forwarded to staff, so it should come to us for comments. And that was what we worked on last.
Any questions for Ms. Stevens?
I have a joint comment for Ms. Stevens, Mr. Heller, just on that parks funding for COG. Just to continue to kind of keep an eye out on the revenue side. How are they bringing in revenue?
Yes.
What are those funding models? Because it's continually depend on the townships to bear the majority of cost for, let's just say, 20 people to do flag football. I'm making that up. Or that's probably a bad example. It probably makes a lot of money now. But like, I don't know, a yoga thing with 7 people, like let's, reevaluate that and make sure that every one of these programs is mostly funded type of a thing.
Right. Well, that is really the purview of the authority. I mean, they're the ones that are in charge of the programming. They do that. They set the fees, etc., and that sort of thing. But that's a discussion that we can have with Corey.
Yeah, okay.
I will say the Finance Committee actively looks at that and has requested previously that we see and that we do not fund, for example, those things that might be underwater basket weaving with 4 different applicants, because it's nearly impossible to find somebody to teach underwater basket weaving, and they're really expensive. So looking at that and modeling that out for the upcoming year, that is part of the ongoing discussion, and you and Mr. Harden from Harris Township share one mind.
Right.
So yes, we are all, this is something we're looking at in the Finance Committee.
Awesome.
I think underwater basket weaving is sort of as popular as the roller coaster out at the West End.
Oh no, that roller coaster's going in, I heard. Kidding.
And I
Look at
teach
the
underwater basket.
See, okay, so you.
Whether or not people are in favor of amusement parks, it could be either amusing or not amusing. Anything else on Parks and Recreation Governance Committee?
No.
Anyone have communications to the board?
I have a question on the communications to the board.
Oh, good question.
Matter of, I guess, procedure, since this is my first meeting. Would things that all right, so, and also, I've heard that y'all, I've heard communications to the board, and generally
Yes.
they're just kind of short, to the point. And I guess my first question is, communications to me before I got sworn in today, would that be something? No? Okay, then I will save that.
Yeah, unless there was something directed, for the whole board. I've, you know, of course, I've even brought, like, I think last meeting had some concerns with winter maintenance issues that I just, you know, shared and acknowledged that, you know, those were directed to staff to, for their information.
It was something that would, I think maybe this is a discussion offline, just like a matter of like what, again, I don't wanna like violate any norms or anything like that, so figure out like procedurally, like what somebody communicated to me, whether or not, I'll figure out the right place for that.
And
But yes.
I was gonna, I guess even to put this further, like, I've sometimes even got communications regarding personnel, like, that is obviously legally privileged, that I just, you know, direct those, that's between the manager and I. And usually just keep it as, I got this, manager, I talked to them, you know.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. Yes, Mr. Heller.
No, I've had communications on personnel, and I've also had a communication, and I want to direct this to our chief, and then, of course, our future chief. Just an appreciation. There was recently an event where a resident, or I should say an outside resident, was pulled over in Ferguson Township, and there was a technical issue with the reading of the plate and the registration of the vehicle didn't match, or something to that extent. And the exchange that they had with the officer was wonderful. So that is a plus. And that person, after they drove off and then with their spouse, they started to question, though, what if they were maybe of a different skin color or a different ethnic group? Would they have been treated the same? And hearing the oath tonight and recognizing that our officers hold that above all, it's wonderful to know that we don't have to worry about that in discrimination in Ferguson Township. And what I told the resident, and I should say the non-resident, but being from the outside, was that I know our officers uphold that and, you know, cherish that. So they had a great experience, and I just want to say thank you to the police and the officers for upholding that oath.
Thank you very much.
I'll also add, my understanding, it's been policy ever since we had the body worn cameras that the chief, you know, reviews those on a monthly basis from all the officers. So there is that checks and balances is the interactions on the street, you know, of, you know, are they honorable and acceptable? So, yeah, appreciate, you
That's
know,
also
that
done by
level
the
of oversight.
supervisors as well, the patrol supervisors. They look at a certain number of body worn cameras each month to make sure that there's policy compliance and appropriate interactions with the public.
Sincerely, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Any other communications? Wanted to take a moment this evening to recognize Township Manager Centrise, as you'll be concluding your services manager tomorrow. And just wanted to say, over the past 3.5 years, I've had the opportunity to work with you, and just want to acknowledge the impact of your leadership. You stepped into this role during a time when the township had many opportunities, and you approached that work with with focus and determination. Your guidance modernized several internal systems, strengthened transparency, and improved the tools that support day-to-day operations. I also appreciate your commitment to staff development. During your tenure, employees earned new certifications, expanded their skills, stepped into roles that position Township for long-term success. That investment in our people is something that will continue to benefit the Township well beyond any single administration. Your work extended beyond just Ferguson Township. In 2024. You were selected to chair the Center Region Council of Governments Executive Director recruitment, a responsibility that reflects your reputable standing and trust that you've earned across the region. You also received the Governor's Award for Outstanding Service in Local Government, and you were elected as president of the Pennsylvania Municipal League, representing municipal leaders statewide with professionalism and integrity. What I value most is the consistency of your principles. Throughout your time here, you've grounded your decisions in integrity, accountability, and commitment to strengthening the township. Even when work got challenging, those values guided your approach. Just want to thank you for your service to Ferguson Township and for the care that you brought to the role. I appreciate your partnership that you've brought in ensuring a smooth transition, and wish you continued success in the next chapter of your career.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate those very meaningful words. And thank you to the board.
Welcome. Any further communications to the board?
Can I make one communication? I'm sorry to, should have done this a little bit sooner. Just to give the board a heads up, because it's somewhat short notice, the Martin Luther King banquet is Thursday, January 15th, next Thursday.
Okay.
And so tomorrow, I'll ask Jenna if she would send out an email to the board to see who would be interested in attending the banquet. I know it's short notice, but in the past, as I've talked with the manager, we've supported supervisors who are interested and maybe a few staff to attend the banquet. So you'll be getting an email on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
I know that Amy Farkas is sort of organizing something as well, so I had said to her, I'd like 2 seats, so whether it's you or Amy or whoever is organizing it, and I'll pay for my 2 seats.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Last but not least, I don't normally do this, but want to give a shout out to CNET. My understanding, they are super busy the first couple days of the new year. And they also do have a good amount of their crew that is still on vacation for the holidays. So want to give my appreciation. Noticing it's just a one-person show there tonight. So thank you again, and look forward to everything in the new year. If there's no further communications, I will have, well, there was a couple calendar items, and we got that information on our website. We will be closed on January 19th for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then a coffee and conversation on the 31st. And with that, I will then defer to Ms. Stevens to present item 11.
Motion to adjourn?
All right, we're adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.